Rewind, intro again. Hi, Jean-Paul. How are you doing?
Yeah, cut. All right, okay, so from the start. Hi, I'm Jean-Paul. I'm Jean-Paul Groban. Maybe you know me already. You've seen me on the forums. I'm the Videosync product owner. And yeah, I'm here to host this live stream here together with Tarik. And we're going to divide this up into two parts. The first part is me just talking about the basics with Videosync. So if you've never used it before, I'm just going to make a quick run through the software, just so you get some context on how things work. And then after that, well, I think you've heard it now. Tarik, he will do his own presentation. So
Yeah.
since this presentation is since I'm also doing a presentation during this live stream, it makes things a little bit more complicated in terms of all the technical stuff. So let's see if I can make this work. So, Tarik, I'm just going to put you in the background. Let me see. My audio is working. Are you still there, Tarik?
I'm still here.
Yes, you're still here. Great. All right. Everybody can see me. So I think we're all good. Or what are we doing? Yes. Okay. Cool. So here we are. We have Videosync here. This is our little application. I've got it running together with Live 12 in this case. And I should also mention some of the cool new features, of course. I'm on macOS right now, but of course we also have Videosync 2 available for Windows right now. Unfortunately, due to all the technical stuff, it became a bit too complicated to also incorporate a Windows PC. So I'll be doing this from a Mac today, but that shouldn't really matter because the experience should be pretty much the same. So once Videosync is installed, we have this window, and it installs everything into the user library. That's where we can find everything that we might want to use while using Videosync. So Videosync is basically sort of an extension for Ableton Live. It sort of lives on top of it. And we have a very basic user interface. I mean, it's just a black screen, so it's not really that complicated. We do have some other things, like we have a preferences window or a settings window where we can manage our output settings and our resolution. So currently I'm drawing at 4K. Maybe that's a little much for the live stream. So let's put that down. So you have a nice drop-down menu for this. And this entire window is new in Videosync 2, and it's also cross-platform. So it should look pretty much the same on Windows. So let's not bore you too much with all the setting stuff for now. So instead, let's just see how we can get some video going in live. So we have the session view open in the background right now, and I'm just going to go to my user library, where in the Videosync folder, we have a video samples folder. And here I can grab a video. So this is really just a video. There's no way to preview the video in live itself. If I want to preview something, then I should do that here in Finder. And then I can press spacebar, and then we can see that we have a nice white growing circle. So now if I press play here, we'll just see that circle appear in Videosync. Like with audio clips, you can only play one video clip at a time. So this is another video clip of a line moving back and forth. So if I want to play multiple clips at the same time, we can just do so like this. So it really works the same as working with audio clips. And that goes on here in the mixer, because down here, instead of controlling volume for a video clip, and maybe we should take a clip that has some sound in it. So maybe let's take this guy over here.
Alcoholic rain will water.
And let's solo him so we don't see that white line moving back and forth the whole time.
Alcoholic rain will water earth's soil with whiskey, now perusing on freeways. And
so you can double click on that clip and we see the audio waveform.
Alcoholic rain will.
And we can even warp clips with Videosync. So let's say we just really stretch it over here.
Water earth's soil with whiskey, now perusing on we'll have lubricate.
Okay, that was pretty bad. Like how super fast. There you go. So everything stays perfectly in sync. So that's super easy. You don't have to think about anything. Whatever works for audio works for video as well. So the loudness, as I said, for the video not only controls the loudness, it also
Water
controls the visibility of a track, the opacity. So this is how we can mix here this white line on the right,
Alcoholic rain will water earth's soil.
right? And we can solo, or we can mute the tracks, or we can stop the clips. We can use follow actions, you know, to let clips follow up each other. All of these things basically work for video clips as well. One of the other things here is the crossfader. We can assign a track to either side A and side B. And then right now, let's use this one.
Alcoholic rain will
So now we just see the white line. And if we go to the left, we can hear our stuttering, warped video. There you go. So if we go to the settings window again of VideoSync, we also see here this section called Syphon Video Out. So how does that work? It says main track. Well, here on the right, we have our main track. And basically, our output window here resembles that, the output of the main track. So we follow the same routing as audio does, which basically means that, well, we have these two clips here. Their audio and video both go straight to the main track, and that's why we see it here. So here in the settings, we can, for example, also set whether we want to link the main volume, so this one, to the opacity, or we can unlink it if we really just want it only to control loudness, for example. So if we group two tracks and we just keep playing these, and maybe we can where are the settings? Oh, loop is on for both of them, and maybe for this one too, so we'll just keep playing in case I trigger it again. Okay, so now we have our two videos, right? And their output is now set to the group. So the video output is going to the group track. So we can use the group fader now to control the opacity of, well, the output of those two tracks combined. The combining we basically call blending in the video world, and the default blend mode is additive, which basically means we're just adding all the pixel values of the different tracks together, which is a similar experience to adding audio together, right? So you just play multiple audio files at the same time and you have one single result. Well, it's the same thing here. We have multiple videos playing, we combine that and mix it, and we get our output from the main track. So if we want to record the output of VideoSync, there's currently no way to do offline rendering, so exporting quick and easy. But you can record the output, and that's what this Syphon is. And on Windows, this is called Spout. They're basically the same thing, just different names, slightly different software, but they do the same thing, which is sharing frames between applications. So by enabling the main track or by enabling the return tracks, we can send out different video streams to different applications, like OBS, for example. So I'm not going to demonstrate that because that will screw up my live stream for sure. But instead, here, for example, this is Syphon Recorder. So it's just a very basic app. We just press record and then it will start to record the main track from live. But as you could already see here in the drop-down menu, you will also see return A and B, which should disappear if doesn't disappear. Maybe it just does that on startup, that it refreshes. But basically, I can disable and enable my return tracks as separate outputs. So I could, for example, send out this track to send A, or to return A, and send out the moving line to return B. And then here in Syphon Recorder, you can see that I can receive those separate streams again. So I can do the same thing in OBS or any other application that can receive Syphon. So that's really, really simple. So that's the way to record the output of VideoSync in case you want to, post it later somewhere. But there's various ways to do that. And if you're interested in finding out more about recording the output of VideoSync, then I really recommend taking a look at the user manual. We've written a lot of guides on how you can do it with Syphon Recorder, for example, or with Spout Recorder on Windows. And yeah, that's pretty much it here in the session view. Now the same thing applies here in the arrangement view, right? So we have our tracks here. Currently there's no clips on them, so let's grab our clips from the session view and bring them over here. Now, because I did that, we get Live's own Videosync window. We can just close that. We're not going to use that because Videosync is doing all our video stuff right now. So let's press play here, and then we get both our videos. Then we get nothing. And then we get our...
rain will water earth soil with...
This time with some reverb. Thanks to the return track. And it's also a little bit brighter because of that return track. And that is because, well, we're still routing this video to the group track. And let me remove these MIDI tracks because we're not using them. We're still sending this video to... I should stay here in the arrangement view. This video, right? We're still sending this to the group, but we're also sending it to return A, and that's why it's becoming brighter, right? We're duplicating the image basically on top of itself. So if I don't want to do that, if I just, for example, want these grouped for organizational purposes, and I just want this to only go to the send, for example, then I can just set this to sends only. And then just like the audio, the video will just go to the return track and not to the group track. Yeah, I think that's that pretty much covers it. So that's audio tracks and clip playback basically with Videosync. But we can also put effects on stuff. So let me just really quickly show some examples with that. Let's go in a slow motion. Let me get rid of that reverb and go back to the to the group. There we go. All right. So, and let's get our growing circle on top of that the whole time. And maybe let's just loop this part. There you go. So I could put a blur effect, for example. I'm just going to grab a random one, right? So I'm just, if I want to blur some stuff, we can do so. And I just drag this onto the top video track. So that's why we're only blurring this person here in the background. If I would put the blur on the other audio track, we were blurring the white line. And if I put the effect on the group track, then, I think because there's not a track, this is actually a known bug, probably. Oops. Or what am I missing? Why is this thing not blurring? But I think it has something to do with that. Anyway, let's move on from this. Maybe grab some other effect, like wavy.
We're sending directly to main.
Oh, we're sending directly to main. Wait, what? Oh, we're sending this to no, to the group. There we go. But still. It's both going to the group.
Lubricated petunias.
It won't blur. Why won't you blur? Oh, that's why.
Lubricated petunias and lilies.
What am I missing? Oh, no, it's not that either. You see, sometimes you have this.
Lubricated petunias and lilies.
Well, everything's blurred, so everything's actually okay now. So we're happy. Look at that. Whee!
Nice.
So what was the issue? I think it was that I was sending it to the return track still. Yeah, see? So I was blurring it and not blurring it at the same time. So I still had a dry version and a wet version, so to speak. Cool. Well, what else do we have? We have some instruments. There's an instrument external input, which we can use to, well, in this case, hi, now I'm in Videosync, or I can use, for example, a different webcam. Well, in this case, we can't because Videosync crashed. Luckily, we get up and running really fast, but that's an interesting one to write down. Anyway, I switched to the other webcam. And as you can see, by the way, let me grab it back. It's not just hardware devices that we can receive here with Videosync. We also have Syphon inputs, so the whole thing that I just explained about Syphon and Spout being able to output multiple streams, we can also receive them with Videosync. And then there's track, which is also another routing thing. We can basically receive video from anywhere in our live set in our external in. Now you might wonder, why is this called an instrument? Because it doesn't really do anything with MIDI. And the benefit of this being an instrument is that you can create empty MIDI clips that can contain automations, which is really useful for doing live performances. So the other instruments, those are actual instruments. We have Video Simpler, which plays back videos, which we can also put in drum racks. However, this, why is this error still appearing here? There you go. So we could put videos in this. We can also put this in drum rack. Now the Video Simpler does only video, as it says, like the Audio Simpler only does audio. So if we want to combine the two, we can put them in a rack and then put an Audio Simpler underneath it. And then I had well, let's grab a kick, for example, and then put our growing circle in here again. And we see a black screen because the first frame of this video is black. Let me turn on my MIDI input. So now when I trigger this kick, we are also triggering this white circle. Now you're seeing this white circle is being cut off, like it's not reaching the end of it on the video, it seems. And that's because by default, it only loads in only a portion of the entire video. So if we want to play back and trigger the entire video with Simpler, we can adjust the end time here. And then you see this loading bar fill up, which means that the video is being loaded into RAM memory. And now if I trigger it, it will just play in its entirety, as long as I'm holding the note anyway. I can also switch to one-shot mode, which is more like I can just click and then it's hands-free. So come on, no hands. And yeah, pretty much other than that, it works the same as the Audio Simpler. So it should be pretty easy to navigate in that sense. And of course, we can put any number of instrument racks here. We can put those in drum racks, then trigger audio and video at the same time. And in racks, by the way, effects are also applied individually on chains within a rack. So if I would have multiple, that's the last thing I'm going to show, and then I will hand the ropes to Tarik. So what are we doing? So we're doing multiple video simplers. So let's put one on the first pad. Let's go in here and grab the growing circle. And then, I don't know, square growing. Let's go. So let's see if I'm triggering the right note. Nope, now I am. So I can trigger two different videos. And they're on two different chains. And as I said, this means that, let's put a wavy on this one here, on the, no, I want it in between. There you go. So we got our square. Let's distort our square and also show our circle at the same time. So you'll see that the circle is still perfectly circular, and our square is very imperfectly square. So if we move the wavy after this rack, right, so after the whole drum rack, then both our shapes, so this is the circle, in case you can't see. Let's turn this down a little bit, right? So now the effect is applied to both of the videos. So all of that stuff that works for audio, it's the same for video. So hopefully that makes it pretty easy to navigate. But in case you still get lost, then you can find us on the forums, or you can join us on Discord, which is very cozy. We'd love to see you there. Tarik, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Kind of. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you still very well. But people can't see you, so let's change that. And by the way, after this presentation from Tarik, we will still have plenty of time for questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them in the chat. We're keeping an eye out, and I'll go over them after the entire presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Tarik.
Cool. Will you be sharing my image on top of the stream, or shall I just be showing myself in Videosync?
Oh yeah, you can do both. I can adjust a little bit. I mean, for starters, you'll just see you. We'll just see you in Zoom.
Okay, awesome, awesome. No, that's actually perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Great. So, hello everybody. I'm going to me just to start by sharing my screen over here. Share sound, etc., etc. Great. Share. My screen should be visible now. Is this confirmed? Awesome, awesome. Okay, yes, so hello. That was quite great and it's called extensive. So yeah, that gives me so thanks for that, Jean-Paul. That gives me a nice little springboard to jump off from. I now yeah, I opened the demo set that you get when you download VideoSync. You get a demo set that I've created together with the Lea Fabricant, who is the lady you see over here. So together with her, I made this video. What we did was we basically just went to the parking lot of a supermarket super close by, took our cheap phone, pointed it at her as she was walking around, and then decided to just see with this very, very basic image and the very unspectacular movements, if you can make something really nice out of it. So I'm now just going to show what the input image was and what it turned into. I'll just press play for this loop. Let's see if yes, let's put some audio. Let's have some halfway. Oh yeah, by the way, which might also be nice to show. Is that I used the Syphon outputs that Jean-Paul was talking about. So yeah, you got these settings, and you can say that you want Syphon Syphon out. I now just decided that I want to have the original image going to return track B, and the processed image is going to the main output. Now I'm using a Syphon recorder just to show you guys the difference between the original track as shown in Syphon recorder through return track B and the processed output, just so you have a nice comparison. Yeah. So yeah, this just as for like a very quick look what we can do with VideoSync, which I think is just a nice little starting point to also show what basically makes my heart pump a little bit faster and what makes me really enjoy working with this. Now we can go down to a little bit more basics, because this is just a whole bunch of stuff all added together. You can also see over here, for instance, that there's a whole bunch of automation, but actually let's not get into that right now. Let's take a step back first. New set, don't save. Let's get Syphon recorder out of the way here. So we're purely looking at our VideoSync screen and Ableton. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna show the video input using the external in device and setting the video to FaceTime HD camera. Yes. you're allowed to access the camera. So there I am, there's the input, and it's coming in through this external in, which can also, if there's multiple cameras attached, you can also have a feed of multiple cameras and do all kind of stuff with the combination between them and switch and whatever. But yeah, I've got only one, this one, and I'm gonna now just apply some basic effect on top of it. There's this mirror effect, for instance. I add a mirror over here. I add basically, and I add this mirror over here. And look, there we have our most, very much generally beloved VJ type of effect, where we use symmetry on several axes. And it is always kind of fun, I must say. However, it can also be kind of boring. So what I like, for instance, to do when I would be inclined to use symmetry, such as this, is add the wavy device that Jean-Paul showed earlier. And okay, let's add a little bit more of the wavy, reduce the scale a little bit, maybe add some motion over there. And now we still got our the niceness of symmetry, but it's a little bit more broken, which already I think makes it a whole bunch more interesting. We can maybe make it a little bit more blocky. Oh yeah, yeah. Now we got some nice stuff going on there as well. I'm turning off the wavy device for a second because I want the mirror to show my eyes a little bit more. Yeah, that's nice. What's also the case is just like within audio effects, the way in which you, the order in which you use these effects also matters. So now we are mirroring it, and then we have the wavy effect on top of it. But also I can do the other way around. First I have some wavy, and then we are mirroring it. So now you can see that this mirror line going through the middle is still really strict, rigid. So now the symmetry is not broken, but yeah, it can be a choice. Or if you do the wavy after the mirror, we are now making the symmetry line itself wavy. Yeah. Another effect that I really enjoyed using, and which I can also use which I can also show right now, is the bokeh effect. So we got ourselves a blur effect. We can blur the image. We can also use sharpen to sharpen the image. You see that the lines are becoming extra sharp. We can also really go super extreme with this. Like if we do this and we add some blur, this can barely be called sharpening anymore. But that's also part of how the devices have been designed. They are designed in such a way that you can use them for very functional ways. Like you can use this as an actual sharpener, but you can also use this in a way that it just goes berserk, and you can use it for creative, free-flowing, intuitive, just see where your machine and your inspiration takes you kind of away. All the effects are designed in such a way that yeah, you can go to extremes, but also use them really subtly. So one other mode of this that I really like of this blur effect is the bokeh. Let's set blur gain back to 1 and make it a little bit less extreme. Yes. So this here simulates basically what a camera can do once you have very bright lights, but they're out of focus. Then you can get this sort of effect. Like imagine that my teeth are actually very bright lights. Then they might look at this in an actual camera. Of course, this is not something. Yeah, my teeth having this kind of effect would not be something that you ever get from a real life camera. But that's, I guess, also something that I personally really enjoy. The fact that some of these things are based on actual real things, but you take them into a domain where they become completely absurd again. And you can just, yeah, have fun with the mixture between the two. Reality, something that somehow feels semi-real. But then we add a wavy on top of it. And yeah, now I don't know, we're making some kind of a strange painting. And then, for instance, I can add a lava on top of that as well. Oh yeah, which actually just overrides the image right now. But if I turn on input processing, then you see that again, some other weird stuff is happening on top of this. And again, to show the difference in order. Now I first have the bokeh effect, and then I added a wavy on top of that. You see that this wavy effect is very well defined. But if I do the bokeh after the wavy, you see that it's way less defined. I can make it much more extreme. Now you get this thing. We have the bokeh on top of the wavy. So something really bubbly starts appearing, and turning off this bokeh, and we have got this, which is still me, but really distorted. You have the bokeh on top of it, and we get this. So now if underneath this all, I'm gonna have this wavy pattern move a little bit. Then let's see what happens to this bokeh effect. Let's say have move a little bit more like this. Yeah. And we can go really extreme and make it much more subtle. Slowly morphing back into real life. So what's cool, of course, about using Videosync within Ableton Live is, well, it's even cool without having any sound. It's cool that you can just use this whole super nice interface that the people of Ableton have designed, and that we can piggyback on. To just have these several tracks, just be very playful in your order of effects, use send and return tracks and everything. That's really cool. But of course, it's also really cool that you can combine sounds and visuals, as also Jean-Paul showed for a bit. And I also made a little envelope following example. Actually, first off, I'm just gonna not even show the example. I'm just gonna make it straight away in real life. So let's get rid of the wavy. We just have our bokeh effect. Let's add an audio track here. Add an envelope follower. It's right here. Let's mute this input. So this now is just taking my my microphone input, and this yellow line is defining the values that I can send to a parameter. By which I mean, if I now press map on this envelope follower, which by the way is standard with Ableton, this is not some specific device, you can just use it yourself as well. I'm saying map, and I'm saying map it please to the size of my out of focusness of my bokeh. So yeah, now you see it happening. I am controlling the bokeh. Right now it's super flashy, super flickery, but I can now increase the fall. So you see that the value falls a little bit more graciously. And let's maybe set this to hello. Yes, this is a little bit nicer, I think. Yeah, so now you can already see something, a very basic version of audio reactivity. And you can, of course, apply this to parameters all over the place. And yeah, I'm gonna now show the audio reactivity to a track that I'm playing within Ableton. Because, of course, this is just a straight microphone input, but you can also take a direct input from a DJ or whatever and play with that. Or just drag a track inside Ableton and work with that. So I'm gonna go to end follow. No, don't save. And let's play this. Okay. Here I took a track by James Blake. And I added, and I made two envelope followers respond to this. Here I'm, oh, actually, this is the wrong title. This is James Blake. ZINK is also a really cool musician, but James Blake is also a really cool musician. I'm sending this audio right here to follow low and follow high. I did that by basically saying, choosing audio from James Blake, audio from James Blake, setting the monitor to in, which basically means that the audio's coming into this track. And so as we're playing this, you can see this envelope follower responding, and you can see this envelope follower responding. They're responding very, very differently though. And a difference in response is because I put an EQ in front of this one here, and I also put an EQ in front of this one over here, the follow low and follow high. The EQ in front of this envelope follower is letting through basically only the very low frequencies. This one is only doing the very high frequencies. And the original image here is external in, there's the blur, and there's the colorize. I made the low frequencies increase this bokeh effects that I already introduced you to, and the high frequencies are influencing the colorize, which basically does this. It colorizes the image. So the higher sounds, higher will do more of, and the lower ones will do a little bit more of of the bokeh thingy that you already saw. So again, let's play this. So yeah, that's just a very simple setup. I made this shortly before this stream started, in like 10 minutes or something like that. You can take this way further, and of course also you can choose when you want envelopes to follow, when you want certain parameters to be tied to the audio inputs, or when you don't want to do it and maybe just with your own little sliders on your MIDI controllers, you want to do it by yourself live. I think that's always very interesting to have certain parts which are automatically triggered and other parts where you just don't do that and you yourself define what you want the visuals to do, to have some variation. It's not just always the same boring reactivity. The reactivity can just come as a really nice, exciting surprise for the audience, while at the other points it is you taking over and taking the audience on a journey that's perhaps less tightly connected to the audio frequencies of the music. Other ways in which audio and video can be combined is something that I did in this other little example. Okay, let us first maybe mute this track. Yeah. I want this to be a little bit less cool. Cool. I'm introducing a whole bunch of stuff simultaneously right now. Maybe let's take it a step back. First, we have the webcam image once again. And then I also have a Tabula device, which is basically a way in which, actually, yes, let us... So I've got the webcam image, but there's also a Tabula device with which I can play the image that I choose. So here we have the Tabula. Yes, here we have the Tabula, and I say here that I want to play the webcam image. If I say no input, and I maybe reduce. Here now, you can see that I can just play it in a regular way. When there's no input, I'm just playing notes that are translated into horizontal lines. I'm now pressing the mouse button on this virtual keyboard, but also if I'm playing through a keyboard or whatever, I can basically just play this visual device, with a musical instrument. If I say that I want to take the video from the webcam instead of no input, you can see that now playing the image of the webcam. I can play the darker parts. So this here are the darker parts of the image. And here I'm playing the lighter parts of the image. So let's see if I can go to, yeah, basically my eyeball and the little bits of my cheek to my hair. Yeah. I now placed this tabula inside an instrument rack, which means that the MIDI that's coming in here is going both to the wavetable, which is a standard Ableton Live instrument, and the tabula simultaneously. So if I now just play this, we get sound and image played together. Yeah, that should be clear. And what's also cool, this Tabula device, yeah, you can see it's still not playing because I paused in the middle of a note, so it's still basically playing my hair at this point. I can also take away the original image, so you don't see anymore the original image that's being played. You just see the playing itself. So maybe at this point I find the image a little bit too granular. Then I can increase the contour and it becomes a little bit more abstract. Again, as I was talking about before, you can go from relatively realistic to, yeah, quite wild. And of course, just to remind you, in case you need any reminding, such effects as, let's just do the wavy again, as the wavy can be added on top of this as well. So we now have this again. Still vaguely coming from real-time inputs, but yeah, very much not the same anymore. Okay, so we got this audio-visual thingy going on, and I also just made something similar on the other channel, which I'm now going to unmute. Okay, we got ourselves a bunch of squares. I want to make them a little bit wider, actually, honestly. And maybe a little bit higher as well. Okay, that's kind of interesting-ish, but I now want these images of these squares and my own face being played to be combined in a little bit more interesting way. So I'm adding the properties device. Where are you, properties? With the P properties. And I'm saying that I don't want these two layers, like, so this layer of the squares and this layer of the tabula, I don't want them to be added on top of each other anymore. I wanted the colors to multiply. So I just choose multiply over here. And I'm going to group these. Oh, yes, I need to put that over here. Multiply. Let's do this. Now this is weird. I didn't test this properly. Okay, ungroup. Jean-Paul, can you tell me what it is that I am doing wrong here in this very moment?
Well, I was reading the chat a little bit. Sorry.
Because right now I'm trying to actually multiply these two tracks.
Mhm.
I'm trying to multiply the tabula.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to multiply it with the squares over here.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow it's not quite working.
Mm.
Do you have any idea why that could be?
Maybe it was that same bug that I was experiencing earlier. Where it has
Okay.
something to do with grouping a track and then.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's something there, I believe. I could be
Okay.
wrong, but I don't know. There's something in the back of my head that's ringing a bell.
Okay. Then I'm just going to show the same principle in a new set.
Yeah.
And well, we're gonna have to release a version where this bug is fixed soon. FaceTime HD camera, squares on another one. Great. I can click on these. There we have the squares. Let's go for the properties. Multiply. Alpha blend. I'm gonna show a pre-made example. I think that's a little bit better for showing how the blending works. Great. Okay, so we got ourselves another webcam image, and I now added the gradient effect on top of this. I'm turning it on right now. We get these colors, and when I turn it off, we don't have it anymore. The gradient has is basically a way to combine two colors. I can move this around. I can make the feathering way more tight. So now there's no feathering between two colors, and now I'm increasing the feathering. I'm gonna go back to 0. Each color has RGB, so you can choose these things, but you can also go from dry to wet, per color. So if I'm now feathering like this, you see that's now slowly going from this color, from this yellow, to the dry input image. What I can also do, and this here is a little bit of nice alpha blending, is okay, how do I phrase this very properly? I can let me first mute this track. I'm going to go to the settings and say checkerboard background. Now we can properly see what we're doing with alpha, which maybe I should have done before. That could have also maybe made it more clear what the hell it was that I was doing. So if you have checkerboard background, if you switch it on, you get this checkerboard background, which is very similar to how it works in Photoshop. This is basically showing you transparency. So we're going through from totally transparent to totally opaque blue, which is also shown here in this little interface. So now that I've sent blend mode instead of additive, if you do additive, then you get both images on top of each other. If I set the blend mode to alpha, then when this image that we have here is totally opaque, we get to see none of the previous image of the image below it, and where the alpha is 0, we fully get to see the previous image. So I'm gonna unmute the previous image again. We have this, and on this channel, I'm gonna set the image to completely dry. So now we have the dry webcam image from here, slowly feathering through this gradient effect into this into the other track. So basically right now I have a sort of like a track mixer. I turn the gradient into a track mixer. I can make it even more clear. I can actually add some color. What are we going to do? Yes, add some color. And now here I'm gonna mix this again. Yeah. And I want to rotate this one. Great. I got this going on. What I think would also be nice is to just now go a little bit more into what it is that this lava effect is doing in and of itself. Lava is very similar to the Voronoi effect. And I'll show the Voronoi effect in a little bit as well. But lava basically is an effect that can act as a completely standalone generator. We got ourselves this external in, then we got the lava going on top of it, and we see nothing of the external in anymore. We just see this image over here, which we can scale, use the scale to zoom into very, very much, or zoom out until basically it becomes more or less noise. And it can go into all kinds of different modes. You can really fine tune this to how you want this specific thing to look. We'll also make it very, very blocky, maybe turned around a little bit. We can have it flow. And maybe I want to have it less blocky again, so I'm gonna go back to this again. So why is this not an instrument? Why do I still call this an effect? Well, that is because I can use input processing, and that means that I'm going to stop ignoring what is coming into this effect, but I say I want to use the brightness of the incoming image. So right now we're using the brightness of the webcam image, so you can still see the contours of my face. But right now the colors of the original image are being used, of the lava generative image, with the brightness of the incoming image. You can also say that I want to use both the color and the brightness. So now basically we just get a distorted version, but it's distorted according to the lava. So we basically see this as a distortion pattern for the webcam image. Again, I can zoom in, where we get into really strange territory. Yeah, this is sort of like almost like so zoomed in that you're getting strange quantum mechanic parallel world stuff. And we can also go out where it becomes more like, yeah, stained glass almost. So I like this this intermediate mode. And again, I showed you beforehand what looks like when I go into very blocky territory. This is the super blocky territory. Let's maybe stop this movement. Let's do some motion like this. I can turn this around still. Yeah, it gets kind of really weird and confusing at some point, but we can always go back to semi-real states and back again. Okay, let's go back to a more fluidy state. And yeah, I'm going to show Voronoi right now. So this was lava. The very similar effect is the Voronoi one. Where are you, Voronoi? At the V. Yeah, again, so it's basically looks like it's a completely just overriding the original image, but I can turn input processing on. I want to fill this completely. Yeah, and we see me already. I'm now. This is the original Voronoi image. This is what happens if I have both. Well, this is what happens if I say that I want only the color of the incoming image to influence the Voronoi pattern. This is what I say. This is what happens when I want nothing to influence the Voronoi pattern. This is when I say I want only the brightness to influence the Voronoi pattern. I mean, also obviously, just to state the maybe obvious, you can do this with any combination of images. So you can have one image that's generating a certain pattern, you send it through the Voronoi, and then you send that combined thing through other whatever you wanna use. So this is not just with real-time image. That's just the example I'm giving right now to make things hopefully somewhat comprehensible. So now we have these. The spread parameter I didn't show yet. We also have the spread parameter within lava, and I'm going to show it right now. I'm going to zoom in to the Voronoi pattern a little bit more, and I'm going to show what the spread parameter does. It basically zooms out per Voronoi cell. So you can see that right now, yeah, it can go really crazy. And we can also have a little bit more like this when it's as if I'm again looking through some strange glass, or yeah, no, maybe through the eyes of a fly. And if I set spread to exactly 1, it zooms to a point where the effect basically becomes invisible. Unless, of course, I say, I want to use only the color. And then it's not invisible anymore. We still have the color of the original Voronoi on top of it. So let's spread a little bit more like this. And I also actually like to have them bleed into each other a little bit more. So I just clicked on the bleed. Now it's less strongly defined and it becomes, I don't know, as if you're under the influence of some unholy substances. So there's the zooming in and out that can happen per cell, basically. But there's also a rotation that I can do per cell. So now it becomes really weird. Every cell rotates individually. Let's actually spread set the spread to 1. And now I'm just rotating. I can actually set the bleed back to 0 again, so you can see more clearly how this is happening per cell. And it's just slightly disjointed. Turning on the bleeding again. I can choose to, yeah, this I can choose to have less of the image visible or more. Actually, let us disable checkerboard background so we get this. Let's add some feathering perhaps to each of these things. I want the density that is making less or more of these Voronoi styles appear. I want also that to sort of like vary. So now we see that there's a little bit, going around. So let's add some more motion to this, have a more displaced, and I want all of this to move upwards. Yeah, great. Oh yeah, and let's have each and every one of these cells again rotate a little bit more. So now I'm really, I don't know what kind of weird Picasso kind of figure I've become. Yeah, so now we got this. Now I want to show the Voronoi. I'm just going to delete this. I want to show it in combination with another effect that I think is really, really cool, which is the feedback effect. We can see some feedback already going on the moment that I drag it in there. I'm basically smeared out in time. I can set the feedback to 0, then this is basically just the original image. I can set it really extremely high to a point where basically the incoming image is barely or completely not even anymore influencing. I froze myself in time. And now slowly I'm coming back again. This feedback effect allows you to zoom in and out for every. Okay, so basically what a feedback does is basically it takes the previous image and adds it on top of the current image. And with this mixed parameter, I can define how much of the previous image I want to use. So if I'm saying that I want to only use the previous images, then there is no more current images anymore. If I say I want to use only the current images, then there's no previous images anymore. And if I do a little bit of this, then you basically get a trail of the previous images that is following me around. There's different types of mixing that I can do here. I can use the maximum color. So now you can see that whiteness and like the brighter colors. You see my eye creating these trails? That's because the maximum color values are taking precedence right now. And if I use difference, we get some really, sometimes quite psychedelic and very, very stroby type of effects, which can be nice in combination with other things. In itself, I'm not always convinced that this is the best thing to do. Also for your own, and I don't know, for you, just for the health of your eyes, I guess. Oh, but this is kind of cool. Yeah, I never did that before. Okay, what happens if you take this trail of previous images and you say to every previous image that comes into your feedback loop, I want it to be just a little bit smaller. And then the 2 previous images, which were a little bit smaller, I want that to become smaller. Basically, I'm going to reduce the scale here to 98%, and everything starts zooming in a little bit. And let's do the mirror mode to clamp. This is what happens if you zoom in every iteration of taking the previous image, making it a little bit smaller, taking the previous images, making them a little bit smaller. You get an effect that is amplified on top of itself, and then you get stuff like this that happens. If we add a little bit of movement to this, it starts going into here. Like you can see right now how I can, yeah, make things zoom out, but to this specific point. I can also rotate. So let's add a little bit of rotation. Oh, that's quite extreme. Let's make it a little more like this. Great. I'm slowly rotating into this little spot. I can also set the anchor of where I want the things to center around. And you can see that I can also just click and drag the anchor over here, just for your convenience if you want to make it, yeah, if you want to be a little bit more intuitive. And so let's anchor centers exactly around my left eye. Yeah, great. So yeah, it can be quite expressive, and my hair gets quite funky too. Let's see if I max from this. Now my teeth are getting very, very, very weird. And in difference, what happens? Yeah, zebra patterns. Okay. Let's set this back to normal-ish and rotation back to normal. What I specifically also really like about this feedback effect is that you can use other effects within the feedback loop. So I'm going to just have the transform just to show that. I'm setting the feedback loop to this track, which means that it's now taking whatever comes out of this track back into the feedback loop. So the same thing that I did right now, that I did just now within this feedback device, I can do within this transform device. Now I'm also zooming out over, yeah, zooming out basically. I can make this quite extreme. Again, do some rotation. Let's set the wrap mode to mirror. Increase the wrap gain so we can really see that mirror. And just, yeah, make some interesting little geometries over here. Yeah. So that's what you can do with once you start placing other effects there. So transform, we've seen quite a bit of. The wavy, which we've seen, but not in the context of feedback device, will make things like this. Let's add a little scale. Great. And let's have it move a little bit more. Nice. Yes. And now I would love to show what this feedback effect can do with the Voronoi that I just showed, because I've shown you what the feedback can do once you zoom in or out, but I've also shown that the Voronoi can zoom in and out per cell. So what happens if you combine this feedback with the Voronoi? Voronoi input processing. Let's have you full, zoom in a little bit. Spread goes to 1, but we zoom in, we zoom out just a tiny little bit. So this could be super much zoom out. We zoom out just a tiny little bit, and we add, yeah, we start applying this feedback. So now we see what happens if you, yeah, combine these things. And this is something cool that happens with a lot of effects. Once you incorporate them within a feedback loop, a whole other world of possibilities and almost like evolving life starts emerging. I'm going to now use this rotation that I had before. And yeah, we see this emerging. Now we can still see very clearly the borders between the Voronoi cells. I'm going to make it a little bit less by having the bleed come a little bit less strong. Yeah, exactly. And maybe let's make this more extreme. Yeah. Motion, we add a little bit of motion over here. And maybe, yeah, what am I even looking at anymore? I can see hints of eyes, but just very, very small hints of eyes. Um, yeah, indeed, a C star. And I'm now just going to apply the Voronoi color, the original Voronoi color. Maybe have the spread a little bit less extreme. And maybe have less extreme rotation as well. Oh, great. So now we slowly see how we can start, how I go from a person more and more into this C star, into whatever kind of abstract world this is. The colors of the Voronoi also can be adjusted to your liking with all kind of parameters over here. Yeah, not gonna go super deep into that right now, but a lot of the things which I thought might be too restricting to a user, I tried to get out of the way because I felt because it was very important to all of us at Showsync that to give the people the freedom, to give people the real freedom to do whatever they wanted, while also being guided by the aesthetics that we ourselves have. So hopefully, when you would use this, you can still really have the feeling that you're making this fully your own. Oh yeah, another device that I really, really like is a displacement device over here. Let's again show it without too much feedback. So yeah, you're displacing the image based on either how bright it is or what the color is. I can also use this contour to make it a little bit more smooth. Yeah, yeah, Giga Chat, sort of. I'm not so sure about that right now. But yeah, again, let's have a look at what happens with when we apply some feedback on top of this. Okay, this is quite extreme. Let's reduce this multiplier over here. And maybe let's reduce the contour over here as well. Maybe I want to do you. Yeah, so now things start flowing. And maybe actually just do some difference over here. No, no difference. Maximum. Yeah, things start flowing into interesting direction. And because now the displacement is working based on the hue component, which is basically the color, you'll see that right here, for instance, this white seems to be flowing a little bit more to the right, while this here is going more to the left. Let's maybe see what happens if I make this more extreme and add a color utility to this and increase the saturation. Yeah, exactly. Things become a little more extreme. Decrease, we get this. Increase. Yeah, that's also kind of cool. We see things moving, going from fully saturated to more black and white because within a feedback loop, I'm decreasing the saturation. But what if I now also change the hue? Yeah, now we can see how also the displacement is changing because I'm changing the hue. Also, the displacement is changing. Maybe let's go more wild now. Yo, fucking carnival. Okay, this is not what I necessarily would choose to have as visuals, but yeah, I think it's a nice illustration of how really crazy one can choose to go. Oh, this I'm actually kind of liking. Yeah. And let's decrease the contour or increase. Ooh. Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about before. Use feedback, play around, feel free, and weird types of life and evolution will start emerging out of it. Yeah. Okay. I also want to not leave you without showing the ISF shader, the ISF loader. Oh, Yes, indeed. Sorry, ISF Shader. This device has changed names a bunch of times. So nowadays it's called ISF Shader, which basically allows you to use shaders, which are basically just visual effects that have been written by other people. You can also write your own. You can also use this to learn how to create your own effects. So here's just one file called corner color tint. You can go directly into the file. I'm going to say edit file. Here it is. This is what it looks like. I'm of course not going to go into all the detail of what this means, but if I just say that I want the resulting pixel to be multiplied by 2.0, I save this, we see that everything becomes twice as bright. Half as bright, okay, or just return to normal. And we get this. So these are all different shaders that have been written by people who are not us, well, except for one that's been written by me. But most of these things over here are written by different people. You see the credits, you see what kind of, yes, some small descriptions of these shaders. And there's just a whole world of them. Right now, I just want to show, for instance, just the generators, the things that create visuals out of nothing. Oh yeah, this one creates visuals out of nothing, but also uses the input. Yeah, just there's a whole lot to explore there. Or we can just go to the filters and just see if maybe, well, here this turns me into ASCII art, which is maybe nice. Maybe make it a little more. Can we still recognize me? Yeah. So yes, this is one thing that I think is really, really great. Again, just for if you want to go searching out of the box, if you want to download something from the internet that you really liked, or if you want to just see, hey, how do I even do this? How do I create my own little shader times a half again? Or what happens if I do? What should I do? Just do +1 somewhere in the middle. Okay, this happened. It became more contrasty. Nice, cool. And so slowly you can learn what it even means, all the stuff that's here. Then if at some point you get curious enough, you can maybe also start learning that stuff online. Videosync is explicitly made for people who do not want to program themselves. But if you want to do that, that is also, yeah, and expand or maybe even help other Videosync users by doing this. Yeah, all of that is, of course, free to do.
If I may
Yeah,
join you here for a second.
absolutely.
I don't see myself move for some reason. If you hear me, I'm here. I don't know what happened to the camera. What I wanted to say, somebody mentioned, like, can you develop your own plugins that fit into the Videosync pipeline? And I think this nicely ties into that because, yeah, ISF Shader, this device comes with a lot of shaders. You can open and edit them. But there's also a plugin SDK with which you can easily, or not easily, but you can make your own plugins using ISF shaders. So you can start writing your shader or editing your shader in ISF Shader and then build your own UI, your own device around that once you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I barely touched upon was automation, which I will go into right now. Not super detailed, but it's also just a nice way to return back to this original clip, this demo set that again everybody gets who downloads this software. Let's go. to- Okay, let's play focus. Okay, right now we're looping this little bit of the track and of the video. And I'm going to look at the automation of what? This track, process video. Okay. This thingy. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, you'll notice that this is a device that I really, really like. Yeah. I'm dealing with an invisible little. Okay. So, see how this knob is going up and down and very much influencing this here. This is very important for visually emphasizing the beat. And that's, I didn't do this with envelope following or anything. This is just something that I basically programmed with automation. And let's go into this track over here. Here we can see it. Now here, right now, it's very, very strong. I can make it much less, much more stronger. And so just as a little example of what automation can do, I've automated the hell out of this. All of these parameters which have red dots show you the automated parameters, so you can see it's a lot. For instance, also, I think there's another effect. Yeah, right here, where she's turning into a black blob. That is very much done with this. Let's zoom in. Ugh, no. A little bit confusing. Okay, black blob. Here you are, the black blob. So this is the displacement that at the very end of the beat, I wanted something extra to happen there with the. So that's where I just decided to make this thing. So now it's just made it more extreme, and yeah, let's start. Let's keep on looping while I play with this automation. And let's just make it, just for example purpose, make it more extreme. I'm not sure if I'm actually making my point clear right now, because I made it so extreme that the whole image is just being distorted. But yeah, basically you can use envelope following, as I showed earlier. You can use MIDI to combine audio and video creation at the same time. You can also combine audio and video effects. I didn't show that, but for instance, you can imagine that with my MIDI controller, I'm turning up some parameter, and it increases both the feedback on an image as well as the reverb, which I think is a really, really nice combination. All these things can be audiovisually combined like that. But also you can choose just to have your automation of your visuals separate in some sense, but inspired by the audio, as I did right here. And that is very often the way in which I myself choose to work. But that's by no means how I say that one should work. That's just what I really like to do, to have visual tracks which are inspired by, but not completely following the audio. Yeah, and I think that is more or less what I had to say for now. Yeah.
Cool. Hi. My stuff works again.
That's nice.
Thanks so much for that, Tarik. That was really nice.
Cool.
Yeah. There was a question here at the end from somebody. How about precision when working with overlaying blended material? What about placements and scaling elements? Would be awesome to give or get a demonstration on that later. I can tackle that.
Okay.
Maybe. And the other thing is that I wanted to say that I think maybe, that I really like, but Videosync essentially, yeah, it's a visual engine. So it's not necessarily a visualizer or that does a lot of things for you, but rather you have the exact same amount of control that you normally have over audio, right? So you really have to think of it as a tool to create your own visuals, make it respond to audio however you like. Yeah, things like that. Cool. Let's see if I can show my screen. And yeah, cool. hi, here's my screen. So I think I'm not sure if I've seen it, but I'm not sure if I saw it, but have you used the transform effect at all? Tarik?
I've used it a bit. Yes. So yeah, but not really in that very specific way of like you can just now move it a little bit, so you can position a little bit more.
Right. So okay, let's just really quickly let's grab, for example, two video simplers. You could put as many in this thing as you like, of course. There's our guy again, without. And let's just use an image because people have been asking about images as well. So if you like apples, here they are. I've got some apples, and I have this fella. Cool. So right now they're just, full screen. That's because the scale mode in Simpler here is set to scale to fill. So we can change that. Stretch to fill, maybe, or original. So now it's a little bit smaller than the whole window. Scale to fill. All right. So, and then the other thing, basically, to do positioning per video, or for the entire drum rack again, right? We can scale, and then we can use this yellow thingy to move the video around. But of course, we can also do so for individual videos. So we can just put it here, and now we can make him be over there, and our apples are still full screen, but we can also put our apples, maybe, put our apples in one basket. Where did oh shit, it automatically switched. I didn't notice, sorry. So I'm way off, way too far. There we go. So we have apples, and then this guy got lost. He got way out of bounds. Oh shit. Oopsie. There we go. So he's over there. The apples are there. There you go. So now you can basically position them individually. And right now you see that you basically here there's some overlap between the two. So then this whole blend mode thing comes into play again. So if we put a properties device on the bottom chain, this bottom chain essentially is the top layer. So it's a bit confusing maybe, but it's because here in live, the bottom number is the lowest layer, and on every track to its right is on top of that. But only if you use the alpha blend mode, and you can do that using the properties device, right? So now you'll see if I play them both at the same time, now this guy is on top of the apples. So there you go. So that's basically how you can position individual stuff within chains. And this is not just drum rack, right? You can do this with audio effect racks or instrument racks. Any track, any chain, basically you can do these things. Can you use CV from a modular setup through a module like Expert Sleeper's ES9? I've heard this name before. I don't do anything with modular, but basically, Live has modular stuff. It's just been a while since I've looked at them personally. But yeah, I believe there's a pack where there's some devices that you can use to receive CV, and you can just map those like you normally would to audio effects, right? But you can just as well map them to Videosync's parameters in devices. So there's no difference there as far as I'm concerned. Could you convert CV to MIDI? Well, that's a, we need an expert in that field then, I guess. I have a question regarding the stress on the system. Made some tests with different resolutions up to extreme one to see how the FPS drops so the video is just stuttering. Because my machine can't handle it anymore, but it has not a significant effect on the GPU. Why? Thought this is the reason. Well, there are some things that happen on the GPU and there are some things that happen on the CPU. Mainly all the effects manipulations. So if you use stuff like Transform or Voronoi or Lava, all of those effects, they require a lot of calculations, and those are best done on the GPU. There's also some things that happen on the CPU, which is mainly loading images or loading videos or decoding videos, loading stuff into RAM. So RAM memory is something really to look out for. So if we go to the right one. Hello, this is the right one. Now you're seeing my screen. So if we look up Videosync over here and, sorry, we go to memory, we can see that it's currently consuming about 700 megabytes of memory, but so, you know, this is something that pops up every now and then for some users. As I explained, you know, we only load a portion of a video by default, if you want the entire video in simpler, that is. So this is purely specific to simpler. But if you want to load the entire video, it loads that video into RAM memory in order to be super responsive. So whenever you press a note, that video appears immediately. For that, we have to load it into RAM memory. But these kind of files are usually compressed. And you might think, how big is this file? 82 megabytes, for example. But it's a 4K file, and it's 26 seconds long. So if I load this entire thing, it's probably, we're going to see some, well, some increase in RAM consumption. Oh, there we go. We suddenly have 20 gigs of RAM being used by a single video in simpler. So that can easily bottleneck your machine. And in those cases, we recommend using a different, or either lower resolution source material, or yeah, just not using the entire video. That's why we have this start and end time for videos. So that's for RAM memory, and I think that's just an important thing to know about when you're working with simpler, is just to be aware of it. Take a look at your activity monitor, because as soon as this becomes red, if memory pressure becomes high, then your computer becomes very unresponsive and unpredictable. So you want to keep this as low as possible, especially during performances. Other than that, of course, you have your target FPS, so the amount of FPS that you are attempting to draw, and you have the different resolutions. And usually, the lower the better for faster frame rates. And there's no really a limit to the target FPS for Videosync. It really depends on the monitor that you are displaying Videosync on. So this display, for example, does 120 FPS, so we'll see that it can jump up to that, but I can also enter other numbers, but it won't go up there because my display just simply doesn't support that. Or at least on macOS, that's what happens automatically. I'm not quite sure if it's the same on Windows. Anyway, that's my reply to Schwefelgelb in my best German. Thanks for covering this topic. The automation of the positioning would then basically making automation of the positioning and scaling possible. Yes, exactly. If you automate transform and put it in a clip, then you can move stuff around over time.
If I may interject there,
yeah,
that's also a very important part of the demo set. There's a transform that I've automated, yeah, a lot of parameters in, because one very expressive part, as I told you guys before, it was just a static camera that was filming Leia as she was walking around. To have that a little bit more nicely, how calls. To have to give some energy to that, it was also important to like zoom in, zoom out, focus on her feet, all this kind of stuff. So I've been constantly jumping around with the camera in a explicitly musical way to a musical timeline. So yeah, the transform has been super helpful for that as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple effect, but
yeah, indeed, but so powerful. You can make a whole video simply with just indeed only using the transform. But if you're going to be expressive with the way you move, that's like dancing. That's like that's already a whole world in and of itself.
Right. Yeah. Oops, sorry. I really like the rap modes, which are fun. So if we just solo this video, for example,
alcoholic rain will water Earth's.
We zoom out. Then with wrap, we can determine how we fill up this empty space, right? So you can just do this, or we can mirror, or we can clamp. right? And zoom out a bit further. Like that. You know, it's just fun to play around with. It's really easy to do really weird stuff with this. Whee. All right. I saw another question come in about the FPS at the top. So that will be this little thing. If we click on that, you also see the console. You can also see the same value over here and also the console. So if in case there are any errors while you're writing or editing ISF shaders, for example, or if files go missing and Videosync won't be able to find them, you can read about it in the console. But to display this value next to the Videosync icon here at the top, you can turn this on here in the General tab of the Settings window. So here's Show Icon in Menu Bar, and then whether you want to show the FPS next to it. This is different on Windows, by the way, because then I believe the FPS is shown in the top bar of the main window, because you don't have this top bar on Windows. So what would be the minimum recommended gear macro PC to do some live performance or live streaming to run smoothly with both audio and video? Well, that really depends on how much you want to do in real time, right? Because we basically we offer two different licenses. We have Videosync Intro and Videosync the full license. Videosync Intro basically just does video playback. So if you want video playback on tracks in the session view or on multiple tracks in the arrangement view, and you want to use Live's UI to mix those different videos, and you don't want to use any other effects, then Videosync Intro can already be for you. But of course, only playing back videos is considerably less intensive for your computer to handle than live manipulation. So you can use a lot of effects. I would recommend really just keeping an eye out on the current FPS and the effect of each effect that it has on it on the output FPS. You can also use the status device to have an impression of this. And if you switch to this little graph mode here, basically you have like an activity monitor, but for video sync. So if we're doing some weird stuff like loading RAM or filling RAM with a video like I'm doing now, then I'm not sure where I left my... Oh, here we go. So yeah, here you can see what the impact of loading that video into RAM was for the computer. So I would really recommend, if you're going for an Apple machine, just a regular M1 is fine for at least video playback and audio and some basic effects usage at not too high resolutions. But yeah, basically the more powerful your GPU is and the more memory you have, the higher the ceiling will be before you reach it with Videosync. So I would really recommend, if you don't know yet, you can download Videosync right now from the website. It has no feature limitations. The only thing that is there when you don't have an active license is a trial watermark. So there's a watermark moving around the screen. Everything else is basically what you see is what you get. So you can test this ahead of buying Videosync if you wish. And if you experience any strange issues, then we would love to hear about it and see if we can improve anything there. But this would generally be my advice. For Windows machines, I would always strongly recommend having a more dedicated GPU, because the onboard ones typically are not that powerful. I'm not really sure about the most recent cards, the most recent onboard graphics in laptops and stuff like that. But generally, if you want to do serious manipulation, then you probably want a dedicated GPU.
For me personally, since the M1 and 2, etc. series came out, I've been really happy with just what the thing does. With its M1 or M whatever processor.
Yeah. Would it be possible to, would it possibly be useful, to have a setup with two computers where only one of them is using Videosync, or does it have to be on both computers? No, that's actually a supported feature. So if you go to our website and to our support website, support.showsync.com, here in the manual, we have some guides written down here in the advanced section for networked mode. So here you can basically connect Ableton Live on one machine to Videosync running on well, a maximum of 2 other machines, because one single license, you can activate it on 2 machines at once. But technically, you could connect it to more than that, but get in touch with us if you want to do that, something like that. But basically, you can connect a Mac that runs live with a Mac that runs Videosync, or the other way around. You know, you can let Windows run Ableton Live and connect to Videosync on a Mac, or the Mac runs Ableton Live and Windows runs Videosync. So you can do all of that. And the benefit of this is really that the one machine does the audio processing and the other machine does the video processing. One good thing to know there is that Videosync does not send any video over the network. It really only sends control signals. So whenever you touch a dial, whenever you touch a dial somewhere in the user interface, right, we basically just send that value over the network to Videosync, and so Videosync can do all the processing locally. And then you would connect your external monitor or display or projector to that machine. Yeah, that's that. I think that was the last question so far. So if you have anything else, now is a good time to ask. Tarik, is there anything else you want to share, maybe? We're already a little bit over time anyway, but that's fine. We're having a good time, finally, after all the hassle. Or speaking for myself here.
Well, there's just more craziness that I was thinking for a second of showing that you can do with the alpha blending and whatnot. The colorized device, which I think is also great for this purpose. But maybe I've already shown enough and shouldn't overload people with too much other stuff.
No, I
In any
agree.
case, yeah, in any case, just check out Colorize, check out Dry Wet, check out Alpha, and you can do some really funky stuff with mixing bits and pieces of different channels together to make a beautiful, crazy composition. That's the only thing I want to share. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. And also, of course, we have our YouTube channel where you are on right now, probably. We have a bunch of learn videos here as well, which don't just cover the basic stuff. There's also routing, where we just go in depth on that, or blending, like using different blend modes and how those things work. Or we go through various subjects that we covered in this presentation, but the most complete place where you can find everything is basically in the manual. Done a lot of work to update this for the 2.0 release, and hopefully it's helpful for you guys and ladies. Cool. Are there any recording exporting modules in the package, or would I just record with OBS? Yeah, you can record with OBS or with Syphon Recorder. There's tutorials here as well for here. If you go to recording Videosync, you have your step-by-step guides for using Spout Recorder, Windows, Syphon Recorder on Mac, or OBS Studio, in case you need any help with that. But so there's no other way to do like rendering or exporting, but recording is currently the only way.
Yeah, this reminds me of a thing that I also would like to add for that's not going to be the majority of your users, but if you would like to use this for a multi-screen installation or multi-screen whatever, you can actually use this Syphon outputs for that as well. So Syphon, you can use that to record stuff, but as I showed in earlier, I also used Syphon just to show what was the original image and what was the processed image. And I showed what the original image was to contrast with the processed image. You can send out. You can have like 8 return tracks. Send different images to all of them, and then take whatever, like I think MadMapper, for instance, is software that will take that is able to take in all these different streams from your return tracks and put them, map them onto a cube or whatever, or yeah, if use it for whatever multi-screen kind of purposes you wanna use.
Yup. Yep. It's very extendable in that sense.
Yeah. And of course, also you can use Syphon coming from other applications. So you can have, for instance, Videosync is very, very not 3D, but you can take inputs from another 3D application, from whatever touch designer or whatever, send it through a Videosync, and then it goes to the screen. So in that sense, it takes and receives, no, takes and gives Syphon.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's basically kind of, you can see it as a full-fledged video DAW kind of, you know, with all this routing and stuff, taking that into account. All right, well, I think we've kind of reached the end of the stream. I'm not seeing any more or new questions, unless I've missed any. So let me just really scan. Well, that was all. I guess there was one question. What language was this programmed in? Yeah, it's, I believe, mostly C++. And a lot of shader code. And then there's Max for Live, that is the UI. Or a lot of the UI anyway. Yeah, a good place to start is probably with Max or Jitter if you're interested in that. Cool. Well, yeah, Tarik, I think I'm going to thank you for your very generous presentation. Oh, here comes in something last minute. I guess you have some stories or of use cases where VJs used Videosync on clubs and rave syncing with DJ performance using MIDI clock, etc., etc. Yeah, that's all possible. You can also use Ableton Link, right? So that's pretty easy. Yeah, there's lots of ways you can sync up video and lights. You know, we've just been talking about Videosync today, but we also have another application called Beam for Live, which is basically the same idea, but just for lights. So then there are just some instruments for lights, and yeah, also worth a check.
Then that's also where that's also what I am using a lot. So I'm using Beam and Videosync in combination. So using lights on stage while also creating projections, creating images for projection, and all of so both the lights and the visuals are partially triggered by what the artist does on stage. In this case, it's Ben Frost together with Greg Kubacki, who are on stage doing all kind of guitar-y, electronic-y, funky stuff, and signals through the network are being sent to my computer from Ben's computer. So his ambient pads are doing stuff that my computer gets to know that immediately and responds by having the visuals do this and that little thing. Other stuff in his computer are doing other stuff, and that makes my computer do other stuff. And all these combinations are then also, let's say, conducted by me as like a conductor. I'm saying, okay, now I want Ben's actions to fundamentally change everything in the visual and everything within the lighting. And at other points, I'm taking down that slider and saying, no, that's good. Now I want to go into my own more free-flowing thing. Very much, as I was saying more earlier in the stream, that I really like to work with those combinations of things. And also, I really love giving the musician a lot of control over the visuals, or sometimes none.
There you go. Thanks.
What is really, really cool though is using lights and visuals together. That's fucking amazing. To have the projector doing flickery stuff and the lights doing flickery stuff and having them flicker against each other, creating color contrasts and everything. And it's just a really lot of fun to have your music and your lights and your visuals all coming from the same Ableton stuff. So you can really fine tune how these things are interacting in time and in nature and everything. Yeah.
Do you have any shows planned?
Maybe there's one coming up soon, but since it's not confirmed, I cannot say. Well, that's the one that's with Ben. But yes, actually, at Amsterdam Dance event at Store, I'm gonna do something. I forgot the exact date, but STOOR at Amsterdam Dance event. I'm doing something on the Sunday. And also at Le Guess Who, I'll be doing a whole day of visuals and also some lights at this event at Le Guess Who called Chromesthesia. So yeah,
I guess who is a Dutch festival, right?
that's a Dutch festival. Yeah, the
Yeah.
one thing is in Amsterdam, the other thing is in Utrecht, both in the Netherlands. Yeah.
All right. So if you're around, make sure to pay him a visit.
Yes. Yes. Now you know what I look like. I'm also very happy to speak. And if you're interested, like, yeah, let's have a chat.
Sounds good. Cool. All right. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. Sorry for the little chaotic start there in the beginning, but we made it till the end. Tarik, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you too, man.
And all your wisdom and sharing these inspirational or inspiring, I should say, examples. So cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks Tarik, and
thank you too. I thank everybody.
See you next time. Cool.
Wow.